And here we go. This should be a little bit fruity, Stevie.
Well, it looks wavy outside the boundary here. We can see New Zealand and Switzerland. They're lining up for the bottom end here. Switzerland must be careful. They've got to allow space for New Zealand to get in there. They're both off the foils, 30 seconds to go. How's the timing? Canada think they're on time. They're coming in foiling fast. Is there going to be room? We've got other fleet members. Different approach from Slingsby and Australia closer to the line. 19 seconds to go. Great Britain.
Penalty Australia relative Denmark.
Oh, what a start for the defending champions. They're going to need to drop back behind Denmark after the start here, but it's New Zealand at the top of the line. Britain at the bottom of the line. Who's got their timing right? 4 seconds. Look for the line to go white. Clear start. Great start, New Zealand. Great start, Great Britain. It's going to be a sprint now to Mark 1, and I like where the British are to control the first move.
And what an opening shot, and what a way to start things off. Race number 1 as they make their way to mark number 1. And it looks like the Kiwis will have the whole shot with the Brits on the inside.
Well, Burling said, I like where we are here. We're easy over the top. They had so much extra speed. And it's Phil Robertson in second. So New Zealand first, Canada second, Great Britain third. And anticipate this first jibe coming on really quick. We heard Burling say we're going to go to boundary, but is there wind on the boundary, Pete? That's the question.
And the Americans shot out the back. It looked like they had an opportunity to possibly get inside line. So an early maneuver coming for Jimmy Spithill as he goes to the inside with the Danes covering.
Yeah, you're at the back of the pack. You're looking to find that extra space. Can you find wind on the other side? New Zealand had control of their decision. They're trying to do less turns. They're trying to do less maneuvers. Every time you turn the boat, you lose speed. And look at that. On that ladder line, shows a 40 meter lead to New Zealand. Sorry about the language there. It's tricky in under that shoreline, and the crews are trying to get a little bit calm after that start.
So we'll keep you up to speed on the legs and the distance. These races will be under 16 minutes, so it's going to be fast. Remember, 3 races today, and they're all trying to get as many points as possible to make it in the grand final, which comes up tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we just saw New Zealand there porpoising a little bit downwind, flying too high. They got out of control, and they've slowed up. They came off the foils, and that's given the opportunity to Ainsley on board Great Britain. Can he take the wind of New Zealand? He's already passed Canada. The British boat looks fast on this first downwind leg. Look at tight moment here. Spain are going to be able to look to turn. New Zealand and Canada.
Ooh.
Oh, there's surely going to be a protest there. Wow, that was big push down there on board. Spain onto Canada. New Zealand jibed away. Surely a protest. Great Britain in the mean round. Look, they're going to lead at gate 2 by the look of it, but they're off the foils. Overlap established by New Zealand. Great Britain must give room to New Zealand. Wow, it's tight at the gate here.
So a big change as New Zealand gets around Great Britain. Still waiting to hear if Canada will protest on Spain as they make their way around gate number 2. Great Britain, Spain, Canada, New Zealand all fighting for that top position.
I think what's grabbing my eye, Todd, is how out of control the boats are. I think we're going to probably need to go down on the water in a little while and find out from Nathan and Lisa if there's anything that's causing the boats to look so out of control.
I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that the chop at the bottom of the course is much bigger than up at the top. So the boat's coming down with great speed, getting into more unstable water. And when this happens, you want to start to fly the boat slightly lower to have more foils in the water and a little bit more control. So it's adjusting to that as we go.
See the wind speed right now holding just around 28 kilometers an hour. The Americans really having a hard time getting down on that second leg. And the rest of the fleet sailing away. New Zealand, Spain, Denmark, and Great Britain, the top 4 right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. We can see a lot of the boats headed in towards that city shoreline. I'm surprised. I thought there'd be less wind over there. But at the moment, New Zealand and Peter Burling, well, they're doing a great job. They look fast, 55 kilometers an hour. And look how high they're flying the boat there. It's not super high, but they're keeping the boat steady. The boat's not moving around too much. That's normally a good sign. Look on the left there, Canada. Wow, second at Mark 1. They've got penalties on them, and they're dropping back 7th at the moment. Tricky race for the Canadians. This is Denmark setting up to turn the boat here. Turning on the boundary, they spin the boat through the wind. That's the voice of Nikolai Sehested. Smooth turn, he now has the right of way. Spain needs to keep clear.
Spain had the speed, so they didn't have to dip behind the Danes, so they will pass safely. Great Britain just off to their left-hand side, but it's still the Kiwis. New Zealand out in front, still looking for that first elusive victory.
Oh, look at the change of height there. Sorry for the industrial language coming off that Kiwi boat. They're struggling to tame the beast out there at the moment. Great Britain turns right in front of Spain.
And here on the bottom left, we've got some of the speeds that the teams are doing on the water right now. We've just seen GBR's speed drop off because they've done a maneuver. Today, it's all about keeping those bottom speeds as high as possible, getting back on the foils quickly, and not losing too much distance.
Let's check in on the course with Lisa and Nathan.
Well, we're sitting at the top gate, and it's going to be a difficult decision which way they're going to go, and a very early jibe. Nathan, which mark would you take?
Yeah, looking at the way the course is set up, the left-hand side is going to be underneath Navy Pier. The wind on the right-hand side of the course, so a right-hand turn at the top is going to put you into a lot more wind. I expect all these boats, as we can see here, are setting up for the right turn. Kiwis have just got to keep it simple and stay between GBR and this top gate.
Go. Expect one more turn for New Zealand, and then, as Nathan said, they're going to look to turn away right. They're sailing away from the shoreline. They're making that decision, Todd, because they think they can see more wind there. They don't want to get under all the fans. They're blocking the wind. We see on Navy Pier up on the top of the screen. Right turn for New Zealand. Wow, they've done a good job up here. Great Britain, though, they're not going away. Hanging around like a bad smell and waiting for a mistake for New Zealand.
One of the best in the world, Sir Ben Ainslie coming in, putting the pressure on. That wasn't the cleanest maneuver by the Kiwis. And here comes Great Britain in second place. Spain holding on to third right now, just ahead of Denmark, and the Americans not having a great first race. They currently sit in seventh.
Great work by Jordi Jamar here. They had a difficult event in Bermuda, and it's really good performance from them at the moment. As well, the Swiss, they're up to fifth. It's a tight race. First boat looking to turn left is going to be Canada. Has Phil Robertson something special in under the shoreline there?
Maybe one of the biggest shockers, the winners of the last event in Bermuda and the two-time defending champions, Australians, currently sitting in seventh place. Look at their speed dropping down to 46 kilometers an hour. Meanwhile, Canada going in excess of 70 kilometers an hour. And this is the team to beat right now. New Zealand got it right at the start, Stevie, and they have not looked back.
Well, they're just doing a good job of keeping it simple at the moment, Todd. Look at the boat. They've been struggling to fly it very stable. They're looking a lot better. Look, the ladder lines there. Show us the pitch. They're nearly 100 metres ahead at this point, and they are stretching out 4 kilometres an hour faster than the British at the moment.
100% fly time for our leading two teams here, but look at the speed on New Zealand. They are growing their distance ahead of GBR, over 100 metres lead. Meanwhile, the Spanish have started to slow down a little bit, dropping off the foils in their last manoeuvre.
So strategically speaking, Stevie, with the numbers that Emily just gave us, if you're Ben Ainslie in Great Britain, are you doing something to get out of phase with New Zealand, or are you just going to follow them in and try to hopefully get a good puff?
Unfortunately, I'm a bit boring, Todd. So first race of the regatta, I'm pretty happy with the second place, I think, here. Ben Ainslie, if you've got to do the right thing, the good people do what the good people do. If Peter Burling makes the right decision, if I'm Ben Ainslie, I've got to make that right decision. I don't want to do something that I know that's wrong to have a mistake.
And then we're up to the top and then reach across the finish, okay?
So that's the voice of Sir Ben Ainslie, the driver for Great Britain, and he knows exactly, already thinking about what he's going to do at the top of the course.
Well, it'd be nice to think he knew where he was going, Todd, that is for sure. But yeah, we're now at the bottom here. This is leg 5 or 6, just one more upwind, 2 or 3 minutes of this race to go in there. Ainslie, not the tidiest rounding, but he's doing the right thing, staying tight to New Zealand. Don't throw away a second and turn it into a third by doing something you know that's wrong.
All about getting points. Remember, you want to be the top 3 points getters after 5 races between the 2 days, and then you're in the grand final. The top 3s will race it off for the title. And look at this, very congested Lakeshore Drive at 5 o'clock on a Friday as they all try to get that mark. And a last-second change by Spain as they will follow Australia in it and lose a position.
Really difficult downwind leg for Spain, and interestingly, it's the boats that Australia stuff it on the right turn. Uncharacteristic mistake. Both hulls in the water. Look at their speed drop off here. And now we look at here. We look stretching away in first place. It's New Zealand. Got a tight block on board the British now. He's keeping it tight.
Peter Burling, the 2-time America's Cup winner, and this is the performance that so many people expected when he came on board with SailGP. Has not had the results as of yet, with Blair Tuke on board, some of the best sailors in the world on that boat, and this, I think, Stevie, is what New Zealand fans have been waiting for.
This is the first time we've seen them start a regatta like this. We've seen them win races before, but this is the first time they've come out of the blocks with a real showing of intent. Still be interested to see. They are the great front runners, and they are sailing the boat great.
And here's the head-to-head of the two leaders at the moment. Kiwis and the Brits, both speeds over 50 kilometers an hour and full fly time. This is exactly what we want to see from our leading boats, pushing each other hard to get to the finish first.
So really just match racing at this point on leg 5 of 6. They'll head up to the top of the course, and then it'll be a quick left-hand turn to the finish line. And then they'll have a few moments to regroup, a little intel, and then it'll be on to race number 2 as we check in with Lisa and Nathan on the water.
Well, which way you go is pretty clear, but there's still plenty of mistakes being made around this racetrack. Nathan, from your view down here, why are people making so many errors?
Yeah, to me it just looks like the fresh water and also the cold water is really struggling, with these flight controllers. Teams are sailing at a normal ride height that we see, when we're in Bermuda a month or so ago, but it looks like the water is really paying problems for these guys. I've never seen so many issues on the water as what we've seen today.
And you were really surprised with that American team, just a bit out of control.
Yeah, they're really struggling on the flight control on the US boat. Hopefully we can find out if there's any issues on board, if it's actually just human errors. But, Jimmy's just been moving backwards all race, and I'm sure he's not going to be happy with that.
Top 2 right there. There you see the entire fleet on the bottom left of your side showing that course that has been shrunken down. And as they come in at the beautiful Chicago Skyline Stadium, it will be New Zealand with one last maneuver through gate number 5. Great Britain right behind him. To Stevie's point, Sir Ben Ainslie not taking any dumb chances. He's going to settle for that second place, take those points, and look to race number 2.
But I think it's the sensible thing to do, and no more manoeuvres now for New Zealand. He's just got to turn the boat. Look at the fans on the shoreline there. What a great shot that is. What a spectacle that SailGP putting on here. Here we go for the New Zealand team.
And race number 1 of the T-Mobile United States Sail Grand Prix Chicago at Navy Pier goes the way of New Zealand SailGP. So a great start for them of the first 5, potentially 6 races, and the Kiwis needed that one desperately. Great Britain will come into second place, so they'll take those points, all 9 of them. And a great running for Denmark. Nikolai Sehested. Denmark SailGP presented by Rockwell having a nice start to this regatta with a 3rd place in race number 1, and the rest of the fleet coming through. Now, Steve, this is all about fighting for scraps, but as we've seen in Bermuda, 1 point can be the difference between you making it into that final race and going home and watching it.
Points really count, and apologies for some language you might have just heard after the finish of the race there from some of the teams. Tighten under the Navy Pier. Canada, they've done a nice job. They pulled that back to 4th. Solid result. As you say, at this point, it's building a series, Todd. It's great to get the win. Fantastic start, but this 5th by Spain, 6th by Switzerland, that's a solid result. They were in the pack. They've managed to chip away, and yeah, Australia, it shows even the best, if they get caught in the pack, it's not easy to get past. They can't use that speed advantage when they're back behind other boats. So, something to think about for Tom Slingsby and his crew.
Tom Slingsby coming off, remember, 2-time defending series champions, as the Americans have made their way into 8th place after what looked to be a good start. Jimmy Spithill and company just fell back, and they will finish in 8th place, 1 spot ahead of France, who will take last. So here we go, the pre-start for race number 2 after some minor changes had to be made on board. And Stevie, the ball is now yours with 33 seconds to go.
Well, here we go. Still a bit of a split in the decision of the fleet. Australia deciding to start inside the boundary there, and Ainslie spinning the British boat around. He turns it aggressively underneath the fleet. New Zealand out the back. Is he going to find a gap? I think he might struggle to find that gap this time, although he's got great speed on the foils with 16 to go. At the bottom end of the line, closest to camera, Great Britain again with good control, but still not foiling. Have the British crew learned their lesson? It looks to me like Phil Robertson on board Canada at the top of the line. They're foiling with 4 seconds to go. They turn the boat down, watch for the line to go white. Great start, Canada. Great start, Great Britain again, and it's now an absolute drag race to Mark 1, and Australia have somehow managed to stick their nose in. Who's going to fly the boat highest? Who's brave as we run into Mark 1?
They are 5 wide NASCAR style as they make their way to mark number 1 here in Chicago with the skyline behind. Who's going to blink first?
Wow, Phil Robertson on Canada. There must have been inches in that moment there. He spun the boat down. What a start by the Canadians. Super aggressive across the Australians. This boundary's going to come fast. Here we go. Watch for some quick manoeuvres. It's going to get messy in there.
Great Britain, New Zealand, and the Americans.
They've got no right to turn there. They're in. That's a foul, surely by USA, and he's lost control of the boat. What a moment in the race there. Canada nail the jibe. They're moving away, and this young Spanish crew again. Great start by Jordi Chamar.
Penalty assessed to the USA. They're already in last place, so not a lot of damage done for them. But wow, what a moment. Meanwhile, Canada, Spain, and Australia now out in front. Great Britain still in the mix in fourth.
That was Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell there coming in. Penalty cleared because they just have to drop behind the boat they fouled, and the way they fell off their foils, that was going to happen pretty quick. New Zealand in the pack. It's going to be tight at gate 2, but Phil Robertson on board Canada. 20 seconds to the turn up. Great job by the Canadian team.
You'll hear the chatter increase as they get ready to make another maneuver as they approach gate number 2.
It's the voice of Phil Robertson. They're just changing the setup as they come into the boat, trying to make the boat down. Gentle turn up coming. Here we go. That was the voice of Georgia Llewellyn-Smith, strategist on board. She said it's 15 degrees right. The wind isn't steady, it shifts around. If the wind turns to the right, that gives you an opportunity to turn the boat and sail more directly up the ladder lines, shorten the distance to the next gate.
So 2 legs complete. Canada with a dicey maneuver to start things off. Aggressive. We expect that from Phil Robertson. That's kind of his MO, Stevie.
That's his, yeah, I mean, what a start. It was fair play, absolutely perfect timing, and then he was so aggressive across the front of the Australian boat. There must have been millimetres in it. Constant comms here between Georgia Llewellyn there and Phil Robertson, talking tactics, talking strategy. They're saying, how many more times do we need to turn the boat before we can get to the boat? Less turns, the better. And look at that lead already. It looks pretty good for them so far. On board the Canadian boat here.
See Georgia on the backside getting ready to cross over. Maybe the best sailing name in the entire fleet.
Yeah. Well, they're doing a brilliant job at the moment. That chemistry seems to really be gelling there. Speedy G, she's called by Phil, and certainly seems to be going pretty speedy on board that Canadian boat at the moment.
Denmark making some nice improvements on that last leg as they close in on second place, and Spain. And here come the Australians, the 2-time defending and reigning champions. They have moved into fourth place, but tight sailing. As massive as Lake Michigan is, they are all trying to jockey for the same position.
We briefly saw on that bottom third just before that wind on the right-hand side of the course is slightly more than on the left. And that's exactly why we then had the Australians tacking back out to come to the right-hand side of the course, where the Canadians made big gains, as well as the Danish.
Here we go. It's going to be tight in here between Spain and Denmark. When they... Well, that's Georgia and Phil. They're saying they're not making it to this gate right now. They might need to turn the boat one more time, and Spain and Denmark perhaps are able to sail a little bit further. They might be able to make it. This is Phil Robertson and Georgia. They're just chatting away.
Yep.
It's great to listen to.
What a backdrop.
There we go, once again, gain on the right, voice to Georgia, so it's just better. Here we go, Ben Ainsley on board Great Britain. He has the right of way over Canada, but he's heading towards the left-hand side. We've just heard Georgia say it's better on the right. This should mean it's not good news for Great Britain. He turns, he's trying to get away from that side. There's more wind on the side of the course that Canada are sailing to at the moment, and there we go, Spithill, fourth, looks like he's up to second. Big gains by this Australian.
Slingsby in Australia now sliding into second place. It is still Canada that leads as they come up on gate number 3.
Tricky decision for Phil Robertson here. What does he do, left or right?
So gate 3, the near gate, one of the 2 rounding gates renamed and branded near in recognition of SailGP's new partner. And the Canadians are through clean, and look at the speeds, back up to 70+ kilometers an hour.
Turn away from the wind, Todd, and the boat just accelerates. You're always going to see faster numbers on the downwind leg. They're angled away from the wind, and the boats are just a lot more efficient going away from the wind. What a move there by Tom. Slingsby up to second, and it's tight in the pack. But will the Australians make
this is
a
the
gain?
umpires. Penalty Spain, relative Denmark. Penalty Spain, relative Denmark.
So Spain was sitting in fourth place. They'll have to drop back at least one position to give the Danes that. And meanwhile, the Americans have just not found their way on this second race of the day. Remember, in race number 1, they finished in 8th. They currently sit in 9th.
Really. Here we're going to come back towards the Canadian boat here as they're setting up for a jibe. They've managed to go an awfully long way before doing this first turn. There we go. Nice manoeuvre. Boat looks a little high there. Little high. Wow. Billy Gooderin flying it on the edge. Flight controller there for the Canadians.
And here we've got the head-to-head of our lead boats going to this next mark. We've got the Canadians doing 65 kilometers an hour with the Aussies and British slightly faster coming in hot. 100% fly time for all of them.
And that's the key, 100% fly time. So the Canadians lead now in excess of more than 150 meters over second place Australia, and Great Britain sitting in third, with Denmark currently in fourth and Switzerland coming on strong.
Left to the top as well, so don't need to push so far to the right and back to the left, sorry.
Good go. Phil's telling us what he's going to do. He's pretty happy to do exactly the same as he did before. Well, it doesn't seem a bad strategy to me because it worked pretty well last time, Todd.
This will be a nice bounce back for the two-time defending champions, Australia. They finished 7th place in race number 1, so a second, Stevie, would be great point gains for them with one more race still to come today.
Great comeback in a Todd. The forecast for tomorrow is very, very light winds. So today's results have got a real weight for them, and the crews know that. Tom Slingsby knows that. And here we go. Great pressure performance, but it's Phil Robertson out in front. He was 4th in race 1. That's, you know, a really impressive showing from this Canadian crew again.
We're going to go above Canada's line.
Slingsby saying they're going to go above Canada's line as the rest of the fleet comes through here in gate number 4, trying to find the right spot while avoiding traffic. It's New Zealand, the winners of race number 1, sitting in 4th place. Denmark now in 5th, coming on strong. Remember, they finished in 3rd, so they've got a nice total going so far if they can maintain that position going into the 3rd and final race of the day.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting here. The whole fleet choosing to turn left and head to the right-hand side of our screen, where we think there's been more wind on average, but Peter Burling, well, he thinks he's seen something different. He's heading in towards the Chicago shoreline. What's he going to find that way? He's hoping for more wind to find more boat speed.
And there they are, the Canadians, after a tremendous gutsy move at mark number 1. Phil Robertson and the Canadians out in front. They have not really been threatened. Their lead has grown as a penalty now assisted Denmark, so they sit in 4th. They will probably have to give way to New Zealand to move up 1 position.
Here we go. Just 2 more turns, I think, for the Canadian boat from here. They're only now about 900 meters until this final turning gate. You can see the arrows there showing the way to the next gate. It's round that gate and a little sprint to the finish in front of the fans.
And this is why the Canadians are leading. Look at that average speed, 64.75, shortest distance as well, and less maneuvers.
1 less maneuver than the Australians and Great Britain, as Phil Robertson spins it around and staying clean. Both holes out of the water. Speedy G giving him the maneuvers.
The Holy Trinity. Faster, less distance, less maneuvers. That's the perfect package if you're on a sailing boat. It's pretty rare that you can do all of that. And if they've managed to do it, fair play to them. Should be a bit of a cakewalk here for the Canadian boat up to the finish now. And the Australians, well, 2nd place is going to be a solid result. Great Britain, 2nd, they finished in race 1. They're looking like getting a 3rd. This is the kind of consistency that perhaps they lacked last season, where it was really a roller coaster. Seems to have maybe, well, I don't know, calling him a bit of a wise old head, Ben Ainsley. He's obviously had a bit of a review and thinking, let's just take things a bit steadier, keep the heart rate a bit lower.
Phil Robertson already talking about the quick left turn through the top of the course and then to the finish line right there at Navy Pier here at Chicago's Skyline Stadium. What a day to see the world's best sailors competing out here on Lake Michigan. As we said at the top of the show, this is SailGP's first foray into the fresh water. And it really hasn't made that big of a difference, Stevie. We talked about it before coming to this race, how, freshwater, saltwater, they've made the adjustments easily, and the Canadians did a masterful job here. Race number 2 will go the way of Canada SailGP in their first season competing here in season 3. They made the final in Bermuda, and here they are picking up a victory in race number 2.
Yeah, buddy, indeed. Well, that was a great result by the Canadians. Australia up to 2nd. They've done a nice job of holding on there. Solid performance by this British crew. They're really piecing together a consistency. Interesting, you said. I think when we get into the stats overnight, it will be interesting to see if it makes much difference. Hang on. It's going to get tight at the top here. New Zealand looking to spin inside. It's going to be close. They have the right of way to turn. Denmark must keep clear. He pushes it as wide as he can. He's got to stay in that circle. But now all of a sudden the right of way is going to come back with the Spainish. It's going to be a luff from the Kiwis here. Now it's going to be rooming at the mark. The rules are changing every second. Surely there'll be a protest from New Zealand, but I think Denmark did enough to keep clear. It's going to potentially go to Craig Mitchell and his umpire team, though. Tight finish right in front of the fans. What a view here as Switzerland. Seb Schneider coming across here in 7th. Solid performance, and wow, what is happening with the US crew?
Yep. The Americans coming off an 8th performance in race number 1. They will look to grab 8th again here if they can hold off the French. And again, bringing up the rear. Disappointing performance. Oh, the Americans put it down.
Flew too high. Apologies for the language at the finish there. They just got out of control and got out of control with their language as well. Unfortunately there, the pressure of the situation showing.
Wow, so 2 of 3 races complete here at the T-Mobile United States Sail Grand Prix Chicago at Navy Pier, and 1 race still to go.
Well, we have 53 seconds to go, and we can see now Canada leading the fleet back.
This
France.
is the umpires. Penalty France relative Switzerland. Penalty France relative Switzerland.
The French need to start back behind the Swiss now here, and off to the right-hand side of the screen, USA and New Zealand. We can't see Australia and Great Britain yet. Here they come into the left-hand side of the screen. Early tack back by Australia. The fleet looks a little bit early this time. Interesting to see such different strategies. Have the Kiwis got their timing right? They're way out the back at the moment on board the New Zealand boat with 25 seconds to go now. Here he comes, same as always. Ben Ainsley on the Great British boat. Spins inside. He's on the foils here, telling them to hold it up. We've got to get closer up, push up under the fleet. At the moment now, Canada up and foiling again. 13 seconds to go. And it's Australia, Denmark and Great Britain with control, but can they get the boat fast enough? Phil Robertson again at the top of the line on board Canada. Looks like the timing's good. Here he goes. Watch the line go white. Perfect start by Canada. It's a drag race now. It's all about boat speed. It's all on the flight controllers. And wow, it looks like the lumberjack shirt wearing Phil Robertson's going to swing in cowboy style again.
Total drag race now to mark number 1 in the 3rd and final race here on day number 1.
Umpires, penalty France relative Switzerland. Penalty
And
France
gives it right back, so problem for them, but not a problem for Phil Robertson and Canada SailGP. They take the whole shot. Great Britain slides into 2nd.
And 80 kilometers an hour there for Canada rounding that mark. They have some serious pace on right now.
Wow, what a great start here, and now they're in control of their own destiny. Time to keep it simple. Burling and New Zealand first to jibe away. I think that's a good move. He's sailing towards more wind. First boat to turn. He's taking control of things, and I expect to see the New Zealand boat make some gain. Look at them accelerate now. They're closing down. We look at these ladder lines on the course, and we can see New Zealand closing in on 2nd place at the moment.
Just a six-leg race. This is leg number 2, and a penalty coming the way of the Americans. I was just about to say maybe the best starting position for Jimmy Spithill and USA SailGP, and they're going to give it back.
Penalty USA relative Denmark, not giving room at the boundary.
Oh, they've got to drop back 50-odd metres. Looking at the difference there, they must get behind Denmark. But at the moment, Phil Robertson, well, he's in the Wind Whisperer, Nathan Outridge's boat. He's got Chris Draper, the wing trimmer, but it's Billy Gruderum again on the flight control, flying the boat incredibly well. Newcomer to the fleet, and look at the speed he's getting out of it.
What's really interesting here is looking at how the Canadians are flying the boat compared to the British. They're not as high out of the water, but they look incredibly stable. They're learning here how to fly the boat together, preparing for the choppy water at the bottom of the course.
At gate 2 in race number 3, it is deja vu all over again. Canada leads the way, Great Britain in 2nd. Then you've got New Zealand in 3rd, Spain in 4th. The rest of the fleet still trying to figure things out as Switzerland, the USA, and Australia decide to try the other side.
Well, they're splitting the course here, and it's going to be, I think, those first 4 boats. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them really move away now. Spanish early into attack, but out in the front of the fleet, it's the Canadian boats. Well, there, we've seen that view before today, haven't we? Canada and Great Britain. I wonder here, oh, it's a bit high on board Canada at the moment. They've got to get the boat smoother here, sorry. But now look at that, the British crew, they're locked in. They're all in a low windage position, and it's basically a test of speed now.
What causes that, Stevie, when they're running stable like that and all of a sudden you see the nose dip and then come back up?
They just start foiling a little bit too high. They get a bit high, the foil loses grip, and then that means windward hull comes down, boat tips up.
Wow, look at this. This is seriously NASCAR on water as the foiling F-50s here on Lake Michigan putting on a show. It's Canada, Great Britain, New Zealand out in front. Ooh, big dip for Spain.
Big crash, too high on the foils there, and it's this sprint race here between Great Britain and Canada.
And here are the numbers for it. Head to head, GBR have been going slightly faster on this upwind, closing the gap with Canada. These next few maneuvers are going to be crucial, and see if the Canadians can keep it in control.
Let's check in with Lisa and Nathan down on the water.
Well, it is a bit of a drag race, but race 2, Great Britain were fighting Australia in second place, but right now the British are in clear air. Do you think that they can catch the Canadians, Nate?
Well, it's interesting, just thinking back to Bermuda, Canada looked like they were rock solid but not really pushing the limits, and we know that GBR and especially Luke Parkinson loves to push the right hut and go fast. We thought this was going to be a 2-boat race, but it looked like there New Zealand have just got back into it too, so we're into a 3-boat race, and right now Canada look like they're holding strong and have made some improvements since Bermuda.
Well, every top gate has been super interesting. We'll go back to you guys to take us through it.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Very interesting, and it's worth noting again, guys, that Canada, this is their first year at SailGP. Phil Robertson obviously was on Spain last year, so he's not a newcomer. But Stevie, to be up and sailing as well as they are this early, it's got to give them great hope for the season.
Yeah, I came away from Bermuda really raving around Billy Gooderham, the flight controller, because a lot of experience in Phil Robertson and Chris Draper. They're a couple of the wise heads of the fleet, but I think it's really Georgia Llewellyn of France and Billy Gooderham that are grabbing the attention, coming to these boats, taking to it like a duck to water, really. And at the moment, well, look, that ladder line showing us nearly a 100-metre lead, one turn there. They're now aiming at the gate, so no more turns for the Canadian boat. Straight in front of the British, and it's Burling and Blair Tuke on board the New Zealand boat. They've made some gains, but not enough gain here. It's going to be tight with New Zealand and Great Britain.
Already talking about what they'll do with
Watch
Australia.
out, this overlap coming here, Todd. New Zealand, mate, there we go. New Zealand must keep clear of Great Britain now. They didn't get a fast enough tack. They opened the door for Great Britain there, and Ben Ainsley, he's not one to accept an invitation like that.
So Ben Ainsley sees a crack and goes right on through as Peter Burling and the Kiwis, winners of race number 1, had to pull away and give space to Great Britain. So the situation now, Canada, Great Britain, and New Zealand, your top 3. The Americans not even in the top 6 here. Remember, they finished in 8th and in 9th overall. And here they are, the Americans finally coming into view into 7th place. Back to the lead. Canada still out in front. 2 races in a row and 2 very fast races. And Emily, top speed, 83 kilometers an hour.
This was done on that first leg coming up to Mark 1. Canada came into that start line hot, full speed, set a top speed for the race. No wonder they're in the lead.
No question about it. So they're trying to make it 2 in a row, 2 wins, Stevie, and that is going to give them a huge leg up on tomorrow's first 2 races before the big final.
Yeah, they're just sailing the boat very well, 100 metres out in front, and it all looks very smooth on board. I think the interesting performance we see on the left-hand side of our screen, Australia up to 4th. They're often not in our shot. That's because they're really prioritising space. They made some good gains by taking some space. That was Ben Ainsley. Good gains for the Aussies. Don't be surprised when we see the Australians come back into view that they're right back in this race. There we go. It's Ben Ainsley at the moment. He thinks he's crossing. There you go.
They are.
Good gains by Tom Slingsby. He's often going the opposite way to the other boats. That's because he wants to find space, like Nathan says. If you're in turbulent wind, you're constantly not sailing at full speed. Nice turn up in the lead here. Final upwind leg now for Canada. Just a few more turns to do. It's tight at the bottom. Australia must watch out for New Zealand. At the moment, New Zealand has right away. It's tight. Slingsby's judged it correctly, though. He slides round, and Slingsby's up to 3rd. The Australians, great work there as New Zealand once again splits the course. But Australia, they're on a charge.
On to leg number 5 of 6, so it's up to the top and then the quick left hand. Spain's had a good run today. They currently sit 1 spot ahead of Denmark, who sits in 6th place. The Americans have dropped back to 8th, and it's all Canada all the time.
Yeah, apologies for some slightly fruity language around the bottom mark there as they've turned upwind. And we're now looking at the Canadian boat here. They got a 50-metre lead over the British and some 130 metres ahead of Australia.
Oh, Speedy G making a call.
Speedy G's calling more wind on the left-hand side of the course, but at the moment I think they'll be a bit more focused on the other boats around them than the wind. They're going the same direction at the same time. It's a boat speed race, and look how fast the Australians are here. Constantly nearly 1 kilometre an hour faster than the other boats around them. And there we see on the small map at the bottom of our screen, that's the whole course overview, and these 3 boats are tight. It's Canada in total control at the moment though, and Ben Ainsley's Great Britain, he's hanging in there. Just 2 more turns for each crew to go.
Great Britain starting to pick up on the speed. There you see their speeds going over 50 kilometers an hour. Canada's dropped down to 48 as they make another turn, and we'll see if they can get into the gate on this last turn. Could be the final maneuver for them until they make the turn to the finish.
Again, I mean, we're really seeing a cool, calculated performance here from Ben Ainsley. He's not chasing the victories. Phil Robertson and the Canadians, let's not hold back. They're sailing. It's incredible performance. But Ainsley, he's really sailing the patience game. He's after consistency, 0 risk, not trying to take Canada. There you go. That was it. Just go for second place here. Just keep it safe.
And why not? Great Britain got a second in race number 1, a third in race number 2, so a second here might put them in the overall lead. Remember, they're trying to get into the top 3 boats when we come to the 5th and final race.
Sure to be enough to be ahead of the Canadians, but they are doing a great job on board the British of chipping away. And the Australians, well, they keep seeming to come back from nowhere.
Okay, into the lane. Copy. Stand by. Copy.
And here we've just seen how the Australians have come from 8th all the way up to 3rd. Like Stevie said before, you know, they are splitting away from the fleet, doing everything that the others aren't doing and finding space.
Slippery Slingsby. He's like Harry Houdini here in Chicago. It seems like he's coming through from nowhere, finding holes, pulling rabbits out of hats and saving his regatta because he's not got off the start. And Phil Robertson, well, he's shown us if you get off the start, you can give a masterclass.
So race number 3 looks to go the way of neighbors to the north from Chicago as Canada brings it in. The final gate, there you see the finish line just waiting right off the shore in the beautiful Navy Pier. It'll be Canada, race number 3, as they make it 2 in a row. Great Britain will follow in for second, and here come the Kiwis and the Aussies to battle out for third.
It's tight. The New Zealand boat needs to stay in that yellow circle. Now, could now be a protest back from Australia. Burling pushing the limit there. That could well go to the umpires because he needed to stay in the circle and it was certainly tight. It's a sprint in here. Has Burling managed to get third from Slingsby? I think he does. Oh, if the umpires don't have anything to say, I think what a brilliant move at the finish there by Burling. He pushed the limit there, absolutely pushed it. Nothing from Craig Mitchell so far. So there we go. What a tight race in Spain. Jordi Jamar, well, they've sailed very consistently today. I think they've done a nice job on board that Spanish boat. Good improvements from Bermuda.
So Spain finishing with a 5, 6, and a 5. A solid, consistent performance, what they were looking for. France will come in 5th, their best performance on the day, no question about it. The Americans, unfortunately, their best performance on the day, a 6th.
And 35 seconds to go. We can see these big wings. They accelerate the boats quicker. The crews are quite early. To the left of our screen, we can see out the back it's Canada. Now, what are they doing at the moment? They're struggling to get the boat going. I think they're late. Top of the line, it's Denmark with good control. Great Britain at the bottom, but it's all about who can get the boat on the foils with the timing. Left-hand side of screen, here comes New Zealand. How's the timing of Peter Burling? Just 10 seconds to go. He turns the boat down. He will have space at the top of the line. Can the crews get the boats foiling? They're up and running now. Watch for the line to turn white. And it's go now. Race 4 here in Chicago. We go towards Mark 1 and watch these boats build speed. They're all up and foiling. Looks like a good start for the Danish crew of Rockwool. They're going to drive down over the top. It's Denmark and Switzerland drag racing to Mark 1.
The sprint to Mark 1 in race number 4 is on here at Lake Michigan. Spain's in the mix. Great Britain, the Swiss now cutting over, and Denmark with a great start. The Americans are in the mix.
Here we go. We're going to be tight on the circle there. And the Swiss team, Seb Schneider, what a performance, leading at Mark 1, rolling around the outside. These big wings, well, look at the huge power they generate as they turn downwind. And we heard Seb say, let's go to boundary. Every time you turn the boat, you're going to slow the boat down. In this light wind, it's crucial. Ben Ainsley and his British crew are hanging in on the inside. I don't know how they're not in the turbulent wind at the moment. That's the voice of Seb Schneider you're hearing at the moment. The driver sounds calm for such a new person there. The French have turned early. They're heading away from the fleet, trying to find space. In just 15 kilometers an hour of wind, space and clear wind is going to be key.
And the overall leaders, Canada, who leads by 1 point over Great Britain, had a terrible start, and they made the turn early as well. So Spain, France, and Canada opting for the early turn as we make our way down on leg number 2 of 7.
It's great to see Canada joining the party here. They were late for the start because they went outside of the boundary with just 30 seconds to the start. Not a mistake you want to be making on this final day.
Phil Roberts is feeling like he's playing with house money with the lead now. Remember, you need to be in the top 3 after 2 races for the grand final. Only those top 3 will be racing for an opportunity to walk away with this weekend's overall title.
At the moment, it's the French coming in from the top of screen. They have the right of way. Here they come. Great Britain turns to get out. Can the Swiss team cross ahead? It looks very tight as we look at our ladder lines. I think the Swiss are there.
3, 2, 1, it's coming up.
Here we go. They look like they've made it. Oh, that was a clean cross, and they're set them up nicely for a left turn. Here we go. They're going to try and sail in space. Will the French spit the course? I think they may just make it to a right turn, but they're going to be slow at the bottom. Tricky for Great Britain as we come into this bottom gate.
So it's the other rookie team making the headlines here in race number 4. Canada owned the headlines yesterday, and right out of the gate, race number 4, the Swiss leading at gate number 2. France in 2nd, Great Britain, New Zealand, Canada, USA in 6th, Denmark, Spain, and Australia at the very bottom.
Just looks light at the bottom of the course here, Todd. They're closer to the city. It is light winds, but the French are foiling 37 kilometers an hour, and out the other side, the Swiss are struggling to do that. There's just 12 kilometers an hour of wind. Don't expect them to stay on the foils in this tack. Silky smooth here at the bottom of the course. It's a real compression in the fleet, and look at the leaderboard to the left there. Australia in 9th. This is a massive race for them if they're to make the final. They have to get a good result. They were 4th overnight, and this will not be good news for them. New Zealand, wow, they're slow at the bottom here. Look at them, 5.8 kilometers an hour.
As you mentioned, the massive wings put on these F-50s, 29
This is the
meters.
umpire's penalty, Spain relative Denmark.
So Spain commits a penalty on space on Denmark. They'll have to drop back. Not a huge loss for them as they go from 8th to 9th. The Americans in 7th. It's still Switzerland out in front. They had a decent day yesterday in the first race, coming out, finishing in 6th place.
Hey Todd, have a look at the screen right now though. Who's that looming large in 3rd already? It's Phil Robertson in Canada. Disastrous start. He found some space on the run, managed to limit the number of turns he did, and he's made some big gains.
And here we can see why. His average speed was up at 38.5 kilometers an hour. You know, it's not the fastest speeds we're seeing, but it's faster than all the boats behind. So he's catching up to the Swiss and the French, making his way through the course.
That despite doing 3 maneuvers to Switzerland's 1. So we'll see if the Swiss and Seb Schneider can keep it going on. 2 teams in their rookie voyage here in season 3. The Swiss and the Canadians having a good run here on day number 2. This is race 4. Remember, race 5 coming up, and then the grand final where only the top 3 will duke it out.
Here we go, we're on board there. We can hear more GA on the back of the boat there, giving that tactical input. I know the Swiss have been really working on that. They're talking about, can they make the mark? That's Seb there, chatting away, only worried about French at the moment.
Looking towards the back of the fleet here, it's important to note that New Zealand is still ahead of Australia, which is key when we're looking at this race to the final. They need to keep ahead of them in order to guard their spot.
So the wind blowing just over 15 kilometers an hour on the surface at Lake Michigan as we send it down to Lisa and Nathan.
The wind definitely has dropped off since the start of the race, but what we're observing out here is there's plenty of wind at the top of the course, but at the bottom of the course near Navy Pier, it's very, very light. Nathan, why are the rookie teams doing well on a lighter day?
I think the big difference is in the lighter winds that you have more time to think about what to do and what's going on, and that's where these new teams like Switzerland are making advantage of this situation where they can just think and process things a bit more. Yesterday it was more hard, fast racing, and small errors make a difference. As we can see right now, they're coming up to the top mark. Just looking at the top gate, you got an option to do a right or a left turn. To me, the left mark looks favoured. It looks like you're travelling less distance, and we'll hand it back to Stevie to talk us through the top mark.
Well, they're already set up on the ley line, Nathan. We can see Switzerland sailing parallel to that mark. That means they can get through the gate with no more turns, but Do they want to take that left turn that Nathan talked about? That would mean turning the boat again, and the French are coming in here. They have the right of way. Switzerland turn away from the wind. It's going to be the French having a lead change here. Looks like they're going to be clean round the outside on the foils, going fast. Which side's going to pay? Nathan said left turn would be good. Looks good for the French at the moment.
So France comes around after a terrible day yesterday where they finished 9th, 8th, and 6th on the day, sitting second to last, just one spot ahead of the Americans in the overall. They now sit in first place. Switzerland and Canada rounding out the top 3. And where are the Americans and the Australians and Great Britain? Way down on the ladder.
Sometimes when you get caught in the middle of the fleet, Todd, to find space is really, really hard. And when we look at the Danish crew, they had a brilliant start. One mistake in the jibe, slightly out of position, you get in turbulent wind, and you just can't sail the boat at full speed, and they're stuck. The British crew, well, they found a bit of space up to 4th. That's a good result for them with the overalls as we see it. But for Australia and New Zealand, well, it's turning into a bit of a battle royale in the middle of the fleet here. Can Slingsby get ahead of New Zealand, which is what he needs?
Race shouts. This is the race committee. We are shortening the course. The finish will be at the next windward gate. Finish at the final windward gate. Over.
So there you hear it. The race has been shortened as, to Lisa's point, the wind really dropping off down by Navy Pier.
Well, here we go. We're heading down. We've just got a short sprint down here, and then we've got one final upwind to go. Only now probably 3 or 4 minutes to go, and if the French are nicely lined up for a left turn, which I think they are, then we're in good shape here. Quentin de la Pierre, Kevin Pepinay, they're talking French on the boat, and it all sounds a lot calmer because of it.
And here we see how the French are dominating right now. 78% fly time, that's the highest out of everyone in the fleet, and the fastest speed. If they keep going like this, they're going to extend their lead further and get a race win in.
Still surprised with Canada having a disastrous start. They are in the mix now in 3rd place. They'll get those points, but remember, it's one more leg as the race has been shortened. The wind dropping off at the bottom of the course, so they're going to shorten it down to just 5 legs, and we're on to the 5th and final leg.
Pressure might look better on the other side for the next downwind.
That's it. Georgia thinks she's seen some more wind on the course, and here we go. They're making a last-minute turn to send themselves out. They're going for a left turn. They're not going to follow Switzerland. That'll be because Georgia thinks she's seen more wind that way, more wind, more boat speed. Well, Swiss are going to hope they're wrong.
Great Britain now sitting in 4th place, but it is France out in front, Switzerland in 2nd, Canada in 3rd, Great Britain in 4th, then the Kiwis, the Aussies, and the USA, Spain, and Denmark rounding out the fleet of 9.
New Zealand just about keeping their nose in front. I've left my abacus at home, unfortunately, today, but it looks like Canada and Great Britain could be punching their ticket to the final here with these results. In the pack, though, we can see Australia and New Zealand still heading down to that downwind gate. Australia needs to make something happen now. We see top of screen, French up and foiling. They're moving up the course now. These ladder lines show that the French are almost 200 metres ahead here.
And here we see the French have more speed over the Swiss and more wind, most importantly. They've got 50 kilometres an hour of wind on that right-hand side of the course, while the Swiss are in slightly less and so sailing slower.
Giving credit to their skipper, Quentin de la Pierre, who has not had the best weekend so far here in Chicago, but what a nice way to rebound on day number 2, race number 4, and the French with a huge lead over the Swiss and the Canadians.
The French are just sailing away. Advantage of being out in front there. Just 400 metres to go for the French. We're on board there. Quentin de la Pierre, the driver. Kevin Pepinay, a new addition for this season, the wing trimmer there. Olympian in Tokyo in the 470 class, and a real friend of Quentin's. I think they've got a real chemistry. Right. And, well, this is just the right mix at the moment.
No question about it. As France has run away with this race, it has been shortened down to 5 legs as the wind has dropped off. So good news for the French, the Swiss, and the Canadians. And for the rest of the fleet, there'll be no time to make up, taking 2 legs off the race, which was scheduled for 7. But Australia really having issues. They're back in 8. They needed to be ahead of New Zealand, and I can't say enough about Canada. With the start that they had, to be in 2nd place, Stevie, that is amazing.
Well, we heard at the bottom of that leg, we saw the little soundbite come up from Georgia there, and she said, we've got to make a change, we've got to take a left turn. They did split directions, they chose a different option. She saw more wind, more power, more speed, and well, she followed the French, and now they're moving ahead of the Swiss. Swiss, but can the Swiss find something at the last 200-300 metres of this upwind leg? They will have the right of way when they come together.
And in the final meters, it will be France that comes through with the victory. Race number 4, day number 2 in Chicago, and the French take the victory here on Lake Michigan.
Allez les Bleus. What a performance by the French. Great work, good start, great first decision. They were the first to turn away and they just sailed the boat fast. But Canada, blimey, this is awesome stuff there.
Yep.
Pretty worrying. They've come from near last off the start up through to second. Unbelievable performance.
And here we can see it. France from 6th to 1st, from the first mark to the finish, and Canada 8th to 2nd. We've just seen the back boats sail through the fleet all the way to the finish. That's so impressive.
And coming up hard here.
They just managed to find a lot of space at the back of the. Sometimes when you're right at the back, it gives yourself some options. Gives yourself some options to look around, find that space and sail fast. Well, Chris Draper, the wing trimmer, he won in Saint-Tropez with this big wing. We've not seen the 29-metre wing used a lot. When he was part of the Japanese team with our own Nathan Outridge, they won in Saint-Tropez. So it'll be interesting to hear Nathan's thoughts after the race on how Chris works with this big 29-metre wing. And their 5th place. Pretty solid one for New Zealand. I think that's going to leave them looking pretty good on the leaderboard in terms of getting to the final.
So they start crunching the numbers as New Zealand comes in, and that's going to be huge for them, staying ahead of Australia, who's trying to reel in that 3rd and final position to go into the grand final. We've got one more race to go here before that grand final. Denmark will take 6th place. The Americans coming in 7th.
Tight here. Denmark are entitled to room in there. They are allowed to sneak round in front of the Americans. Wow, Jimmy's sending it in there. That's really tight, Jimmy. Strong judgment there. Didn't think there was quite enough room to fit that one in, but he knew better than I. And well, look at that 8th for Spain, but big news.
Yep.
Australia, defending champions in 9th. This is going to be disastrous on the overall results for Australia, I think.
Big surprise to see the Australians come into last place. They've got one more opportunity to score some big points, but wow, you come down to this 5th race, Stevie, and you almost want to have your position secured in the grand final.
Certainly a lot of pressure on things, and Phil Robertson and Ben Ainsley on board the British boat. I think they're going to find themselves basically guaranteed a place in that final, and well, that's good news for them. They can relax, but I still think it's all about momentum. They're going to love how well they were sailing, and they've got a real opportunity to put down a marker in this 5th race. Well, there we go. We see the points are crucial. New Zealand is to the left of the screen. We can see Australia right in the middle of the screen, alongside Denmark. Those two are tied together at the moment, and it's, well, as Nathan said, it's about getting on the foils. Great Britain in that familiar position towards the top end of the line as we look at it here. The boats are going to turn down. We can see Australia foiling. Here come New Zealand. They're coming in hot. How's the timing for Burling? He looks, oh, he stuffs the bow. Is that a too big a mistake? He's losing the speed. He's going to go clear. Australia trying to find a gap. Line goes clear. The 3 protagonists are fighting at the top end of the line here. Looks like New Zealand have stuffed it. They're going to be blocked out, and it's Canada out of the middle of the line like a bullet out of the gun. They're going to be leading at Mark 1, but Tom Slingsby, he's driving over the top of the Danish crew here, and has New Zealand thrown it out the window with that start.
The rich keep getting richer. It's Phil Robertson in Canada almost secured a spot in the grand final. They have the lead as they head into mark number 1. They'll get the whole shot here in race number 5.
Crucial time now in the race. This is the first chance for the boats to choose different directions. Canada will go straight, but New Zealand top of screen. They're blocked by all those other boats. They will not be able to turn until everyone else does. Here we go. First to turn, France and America. That worked well for the French in the last race. Great Britain and Ben Ainsley set up, and it's now going to come down to the accuracy of the manoeuvres. We can see the boats 46 kilometres an hour. 48 kilometres an hour is the safety zone for nailing a foiling manoeuvre. There go Canada. Will they stay on the foils? Barely, but they've done enough to stay up. Let's watch Australia. Can they nail this jibe?
So the opportunity is there for the Australians as they need to get past New Zealand. To Emily's point, the Kiwis need to finish 6th or better, and they should be okay.
Right now they are right on the edge there. They really need to get back up on the foils. We can see them with one hull in the water. Ideally, we're looking for 32 kilometers an hour of speed on fresh water in order to take off.
The Australians nailed that turn there, stayed on the foils, and in the background we can see New Zealand. They didn't. They're off the foils in 8th, 345 metres behind the Canadians and over 300 metres behind the Australians. This is going to come down to a nip and tuck. Can New Zealand work through the fleet? Can Australia get ahead? Canada are struggling to make it down to the left turn here. They should just about stay ahead of Australia, but Slingsby's going to have a problem with the Canadians blocking their win. Can he slingshot round the outside?
Tom Slingsby in Australia, the two-time defending champions, the winners of the first event in Bermuda, and it's Canada going around the gate first. Slingsby in Australia right behind him.
I have maxed it. Yeah. Yes, I have maxed.
Very, that's the voice of Georgia. She's telling them they've got attack. Slingsby gains the right of way by going around the outside. Good communication on board that Canadian boat, but it's advantage Australia as they foil away. Could be a lead change coming here.
Let's get going.
Big drop off the foil that's there by Canada. It's still down below 20 kilometers an hour. They need to get back up on the foils before the Aussies attack.
Good to see the Stars and Stripes in the mix on this one in race number 5. The Americans currently sitting in 3rd, coming in at just over 41 kilometers an hour, saving their best for last as they go through gate number 2. And New Zealand has all but dropped anchor. They needed this one bad. They're sitting in 7th place, just ahead of Denmark and Switzerland. And so the Danes and the Kiwis really almost throwing this one away.
It's going to be interesting here. We can see the two boats, the two lead boats, not on their foils. The wind is quite light now, but at the moment with New Zealand in 8th, Australia showing us in the lead on the board there. That's a 7-point swing. That would be enough to put them in the final as we speak. Has Slingsby saved his best till last again?
If the Aussies come in first, they're going to have 33 points, and that is going to nudge them, the Kiwis, off of that podium.
And the wind dropping down to under 14 kilometers an hour. Remember, the first race of the day, race number 4, they shortened it down to 5 legs. This is leg 3 of 5, so we could get a message from race management that they're going to do the same thing if the wind continues to drop.
But it looks light on the water at the moment, and we can see the Canadians, they're doing a turn. They can't get up onto the foils. It's really light, just 13. Even these big, big wings. Oh, there we go. Australia are up. They bounce the boat out of the water. Incredible technique there, and we can see Canada struggling to even get one hull out. This is going to be big, big gains for Australia. They're showing a second at the moment. It won't be showing a second for long. Australia, look at it, up and foiling now. Here's the points on the bottom left, Emily.
Yeah, exactly. Just as we were talking about, 33 points for Australia if they hold this first place position.
So it's Canada, Great Britain, and Australia right now racing to the final. That'll be the race coming up next, race number 6, and that'll be the race for the championship here in Chicago. But still work to do at hand now. Leg 3 of 5.
I think they're going to get better pressure there. I think we've got to go here.
That's the voice of Tom Slingsby. He says he likes where Canada's heading. He talked about pressure. That means wind. You've got to find more wind in this conditions. And at the moment, well, he's up on the foils. He's going to fall off the foils. He's too slow, but he's nearly 100 metres ahead. New Zealand back in 8th place. As we saw on those results, the points would be tied if the places stay at the moment, but it's the team that does best in the last race in the event of a tie that will do well. New Zealand 9th place, and they're off the foils.
Oh,
look
mercy.
how slow they are. Surely not another race 5 disaster for this New Zealand crew.
And as Nathan pointed out earlier, New Zealand, with a skipper who's won 2 America's Cup, has yet to be in a SailGP Grand Final.
I think we'd be saying that at this stage, but there you got the 2 options, up and foiling on board Australia, and look at the extra boat speed. They're going so fast, and they put themselves in a controlling position relative to the Canadians as they set up to turn the boat one more time.
Well, for the fans watching on Navy Pier, I know they'd like to have the action right in front of them, but this is a brilliant move by race management, Stevie, to move it farther offshore to take advantage of this building wind.
We need to get out there and have some racing, and that's what we've got, is nip and tuck action.
The Aussies stretching their legs here with 75% fly time and showing 45 kilometers an hour of speed, so much faster than even the Canadians and the French straight behind them. As for the boats at the back of the fleet, they need to pick up the pace.
So it's Australia, Canada, France, USA, and Great Britain right now, the top 5 here in race number 5. Only the top 3 teams on points will move into the grand final.
voice of Tom Slingsby just talking about his plan for the next leg. He's trying to minimise the number of times they turn the boat. He's going to turn away from the wind now. Boat's going to accelerate and they'll head off down.
Okay, turning down here in 2, 1, turning down.
Sounds pretty calm on board that Australian boat at the moment, and there we are at this top gate, the near gate. It's absolutely superb.
Gate number 3, the near gate, one of the 2 rounding gates renamed and branded near in recognition of SailGP's new partner. So Australia stretches their lead. Canada, who had the lead, sit in second. They're the next to come through. Then it's France and the USA. Jimmy Spithill and company saving their best for last week. Great to see them finish in the top 3 just for morale purposes.
They are. The French have the right of way on the inside, but I think we'll see Spithill fly round the outside here. He's up and foiling. The French have turned, so they're going to lose speed in that manoeuvre. And sure enough, there go the Americans in third place. But yeah, maybe too little too late for the Americans, but it'll be a nice tonic for the home fans if they can get a third place finish here.
France, meanwhile, coming off, and they are both holes in the water right now as they continue to try to build speed. The wind has been a little bit up and down. Look at the Americans approaching 45 kilometers an hour as they make their way down. This is leg 4, so they'll go down one more time and then back up, and the race will be complete. And right now, it is all Tom Slingsby in Australia as he has stretched his lead to more than 200 meters over Canada.
Slingsby's absolutely doing what he has to do at the moment, and he's really relying on the Danish, funnily enough, at the back of the fleet. We see Denmark just ahead of New Zealand, and we see there's 33 points Australia, 32 New Zealand. Well, New Zealand need to jump to 6th if they're to get into the final. If they finish tied and Australia win the race, it will be Australia, due to the better performance in the last race, that are going to go through to the final.
Canada in second. The USA has now moved up to 3rd place. Switzerland still going upwind, and they are in 9th.
It's worth pointing out the USA have found their wheels again. They had a bit of a shocker yesterday, but they're up and foiling again today. Podium position for this race. Let's see if they can continue it.
That's what I'm telling you guys.
Trying to lighten the mood. There you see CJ Perez next to Jimmy Spithill on board. USA SailGP, talented crew, but as you pointed out, they're missing Will Kirby because of injury. And here they come, bringing it down on leg 5, and it will be the Australians with a masterful job in race 5. Tom Slingsby and company punch their ticket into the grand final.
But he's got an incredible sense of timing, that man, hasn't he?
Unbelievable. It'll be Canada coming in 2nd place, so they've cemented their spot after a tremendous first day on day number 1 here at the T-Mobile U.S. Sail Grand Prix Chicago at Navy Pier. And for the Americans, Stevie, I like what you said, a little bit of tonic for the soul. It wasn't their weekend, and now they want to do much better in front of the home fans, but a strong finish on this 5th and final race for them.
That's right. On Father's Day, my dad always used to say to me, you're only as good as your last race. So for the Americans, 3rd place in the last race. Not going to be over the moon with the weekend, but something to go away with.
It's still worth keeping an eye on New Zealand, though, because if they move up to 6th, if Spain and Danish have a shocker, they could still take out the Aussies.
Great day for the French. Contant de la Pierre there. He's going to be happy. The big grinders, Matty Van Dam looking at us there. Olivier Edlon kneeling down, powerful unit on the handles. And well, Great Britain. It's been a fairly consistent day for them. Certainly not set the world alight. But where are this New Zealand crew? That's really what the question is. They've got to jump to 6th to find a place in the final. We know Great Britain are going to be there in the final with Canada, but is it going to be Australia or is it going to be New Zealand? I fear time is running out for the Kiwis.
Look at that.
Look at them out the back. That's a lot of distance to hope to catch up on this Spanish boat. It's just not going to happen, Todd.
So Spain and Great Britain will come through in 5th and 6th, respectively. And that 6th position, as Emily Nagel pointed out earlier, was the magic number for the Kiwis. They had a good start and then just all the way to the back. And they have just seen their arch nemesis, Australia, move now into that final position.
I had a text message from a friend that's involved with the Canadian team, and he said it was just typically the Australians to scrape in and then do their normal final performance. Well, let's see what happens. But yeah, I've got to hand it to this Australian crew. I mean, that was a terrible race 4, but a great reset. The red mist cleared for Tom Slingsby, and he's put down a perfect performance when it matters. Will he be able to do it again, though?
And unfortunately for New Zealand, it is about a done deal as Denmark will come in and claim 7th place. And so that magic number of 6th position for the Kiwis has come and gone, and they will miss out on points even with Australia. No, actually, Australia with that win goes to 33, and New Zealand goes to 32. So it will be Australia, Canada, and Great Britain into that big final. And just like you were saying, wouldn't that be an Australian thing for them to just barely get into the final and then walk away with the title?
Great. Yeah, I mean, it was just a stuff at the start by the Kiwis. They just made a mistake with their timing, stuffed it off the foils, and that split-second error has cost them. It's a mistake, and they just have seemed to make mistakes in this. Look at that. Dejected Burling. Look at him. He can't believe it again. They're just not delivering, Tom.
And Stevie, as we go back and we'll have a look at it again, it seemed like Pete Burling and the Kiwis were more concerned with what Spain was doing and coming hot and protecting their position, and then it cost them, and the race went away from them.
Yeah, I think they'd found their gap at the top of the line, and they were just got their timing rod. They were certainly in a little bit of a private battle, but certainly pretty disgruntled there. Apologies for the frustration coming out of them on that roundup, but what a disappointing race, because they had it in their hands and effectively they've just thrown it out.
So less than a minute to go, the final race here at the T-Mobile United States Sail Grand Prix Chicago at Navy Pier. Beautiful Chicago Skyline Stadium. It is Australia, it is Canada, it is Great Britain, the same lineup that we had at the first event of the Season 3, the Bermuda Sail Grand Prix presented by Hamilton Princess.
Well, you go, 40 seconds to go. The two boats, Canada and Great Britain, they're late turning back. It was Australia, the first boat to head towards the start line. 33 seconds to go. How's the timing? Australia and Slingsby makes the first aggressive move. There go the Canadians. 27 seconds, but they look like they've got themselves stuck out the back at the moment. Control lies with Australia. It's a dive across the front. Aggressive move by Slingsby. Aggressive move by Canada. How's the timing? Middle of the start line's been the place to be so far today. Australia looks well set for this. Here we go. When the line goes white, the race is open. Now it's a timing case here. Watch them come in. Perfect for Australia in the middle of the line, and now it's a blast. Look at the speeds at the top of the mast, 10 kilometres an hour faster. I think it could be Australia first at the mark again. Can Canada hang on the inside? What a masterclass at the start line there.
It's a Father's Day special on Lake Michigan. Australia hits the line perfectly, and look at those speeds as they approach mark number 1.
No overlap, that means Australia are clear ahead. He's judged it perfectly again, and control now with Australia. What do the others do? Ainsley on board Great Britain, well, he turns away. He's looking for more wind. He doesn't just want to follow. He thinks he spotted something to the left-hand side of our screen. Is he going to be right?
Nathan, what are you seeing down on the water?
We're seeing here, it looks like you only need to make one turn to lay the bottom gate. The lay line is where Australia are right now. Ben's going to have to make an extra turn. He's out of sequence with the fleet. It's a really similar setup to what we had in Bermuda. If Australia can get down and make it without doing any more turns and take the favoured left gate, they're going to be in really good shape for this race.
Australia, Canada, Great Britain. This is the final here. Someone's walking away with a title, and this is strangely reminiscent of what we saw in Bermuda, with Canada and Great Britain scrapping it out and Australia pulling away. But this time, Phil Robertson is pulled up right behind the Flying Roos. He's not going to let them get away.
Well, it's all about, are they making it for this left turn at the moment? That's crucial here. Has Slingsby got it right?
It looks like he's got it here, and you know what? Canadians are pushing the Aussies hard and fast. They're doing 53 kilometres an hour, trailing behind the Aussies, while the Brits are a little bit slower, just at 53 kilometres an hour.
Okay, that was the voice of Great Britain.
Building here, 45, missing.
Voice of Jason Waterhouse there, talking about building the speed. He thinks there's good wind ahead of him on that boundary, and he's in front, giving the turbulent wind back from Australia, but it's Great Britain. They've split the course, coming to the left-hand side of the racetrack where we are here. They turn the boat now, spin the boat fast through the wind, but Nathan told us he liked where the Australians were, so it should be good news for Australia. And look at the ladder lines. At the moment, over 100 metres ahead. Canada keeping it tight, though.
On a day that we expected very little wind, the Australians are making it work.
Same as always. Better pressure top left.
So the Canadians see better pressure top left. And who's that going to suit, Stevie, as they make their way now to the next gate?
Well, right now it's Tom Slingsby in Australia heading to the top left of the course, so he's obviously seen that one as well. Georgia's got them following. At this point in the race, we're early in the race. Keep it tight. Wait for the Australians to make a mistake, but if he's seen the wind, they're up and foiling. No mistakes from the Australians at the moment. On board Australia, it's a car.
Hey, squeezing braces all inside.
Have a little look at this body position here. They're in this low drag position. They save it for the finals. It's super fast, low drag mode. It's Kyle Langford just driving the boat speed there, talking about get the speed up, Tom, keep us fast, and there you go. Well, they're fast, 100 metres ahead now.
It's all about the communication out there right now between that wing trimmer and the flight controller, keeping it up on the foils, flying consistently with good stability. If they touch down, they're losing huge numbers and distance. Looking at the leg summary from that first leg of the course, you see that the Canadians actually had the fastest speed, but the Australians sailed slightly shorter distance. Both of them doing only one manoeuvre, while the Brits had to do two.
And the lead continues to build here in the grand final. Australia out in front, looking to make it 2 wins in a row. They won in Bermuda, and they are on their way to winning here in Chicago. Just 2 races ago, they finished in dead last. They come back in race 5 to get the win to punch their ticket into the grand final, and now just putting on a clinic.
Okay, we will lay right turn, which is probably good.
Well, that's right. That means he thinks he can get to this next gate with no more manoeuvres. He doesn't need to turn the boat again, and there he is. He's sailing parallel to that yellow line. That's the ley line. That means you can make it now up to gate 3 and do a right turn without needing to turn the boat through the wind again. Great news for the Australians. Canada, they're forced to follow.
And Stevie, the Australians really have full control of this course at this point. So how much is Tom looking at the conditions, and how much is he looking at the guys that are chasing him?
Every time you turn the boat here, Todd, you're going to lose a lot of distance in this light wind, so I think they're really working on keeping it simple. To the top of our screen, that's the side of the course that Nathan said there's more wind. Well, don't get a name like the wind whisperer Nathan Outridge without knowing how to spot that kind of stuff. And the Australians, well, they're heading straight back there, and Phil Robertson, he knows that as well. He can't, if he takes a left turn, he's going to lose distance. He's got to follow at this point in time. Looks like he might be settling for defending second place as we're on leg 4 or 5. There's not very far to go now, Todd.
It's a long season and every point counts, and right now no one has been able to crack the formula that Tom Slingsby has put together. Did not look to have great form early on. Remember, on day number 1, they finished 7th. They came back to finish 2nd on the second race, and then they finished in 3rd. So they were sitting right in there. But that stinker on race 4 when they finished dead last, you thought, oh, for sure that's done them in. They come back and win race number 5 just to get into the final, and now look at this.
And here we've got the numbers. Australia at 99% fly time, 2% more than Canada, which might not seem a lot, but it's making the difference.
Someone's going to get a fairly serious talking to for that 1% that's gone out the window, I'd imagine, on board the Australian boat there. Perfect turn. Look at the choreography as they cruise across, and we can see on the flight height here, all the boats are pushing the boat nice and high, but Australia, they're just pushing it higher than the other crews, and we can see there the boat's so high out the water, it's just going faster. Look at the numbers on top of the mast.
We see this consistently from the Australian team. They're typically one of the highest boats out of the water with a slight bow down. That's the front of the boat pointing down slightly more than the other teams. This is faster.
Final turn of the final here for the Australians if they get this right.
And it's like rinse and repeat. Australia for the 2nd event a row in season number 3. Australia bringing it home and putting on a masterclass of seamanship on the water. The final meters on Lake Michigan and the T-Mobile United States Sail Grand Prix Chicago at Navy Pier goes the way of the Australians. The 2-time defending champions make it 2 in a row.
Nice work. You can fly the boat.
Oh, it's all smiles on board the Australian boat. What a moment.
Canada this time plays it safe. Phil Robertson had a great regatta here in Chicago. They will finish in 2nd place to back up the 3rd they got in Bermuda.
Nice job, guys.
And Great Britain swaps spots with Canada. They finished 2nd in Bermuda. They finished 3rd in Chicago.
Disappointing for Canada to not take the win, but they only had one race where they didn't come podium. That's pretty impressive for a brand new team.
We can confirm that, Tom.
Well, you've got to give credit to Tom Slingsby and crew after race number 4, and it looked like they were all but out. Remember, he said that eventually someone's going to beat us, but it's not going to be in Chicago. They barely get into the grand final by way of a win in race number 5, and in the grand final, they show their stuff as they sail away from Canada and Great Britain to take the title here on Lake Michigan. Well, Stevie, the fans probably wanted to see the Stars and Stripes in that grand final and take the title, but I'll tell you what, you've got to appreciate what Tom Slingsby and crew have done.
I think you want to see the best athletes in the world performing in the big stage, and that's what they've got to see there today. Tom Slingsby and this Australian crew, I mean, there's no doubting it. They are the best in the world. These boats are the same. It's how well you use the boats, and, well, he said with a minute to go he thought the other boats were late. He knew from a minute out he had control of that start, and he nailed it. So, yeah, maybe they would have liked to see the American boat in the final, but absolute masterclass.
And get your camera ready for this Instagram moment as Tom Slingsby and the two-time defending and reigning SailGP champions are going to do a little bit of a flyby at Navy Pier.
Go a little way from the crowd there. What a shot that is as they shoot across in front of the fans. That's some view there.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie as the Flying Roos go by, winners of the T-Mobile United States Sail Grand Prix Chicago at Navy Pier. Emily, I've got to ask you, is it just the little things they're doing, like getting down low, or is it just the overall performance they do day in and day out?
I'd say a huge part of it is just the consistency, their communication. It's absolutely brilliant.
And as well as Tommy, careful, Tommy.